Welcome to the checkout. Andy and Corbin here, breaking down Premier League Night 2. Coming off of an interesting Night 1. We had some good calls. We had some hilarious calls. We're going to break down Night 2 of this one. We got Cross, Littler, Van Gerwen, Bunting, Aspinall, Price, Humphries, and Dobey. Clearly, the funniest thing is why we're like, I don't know about Cross and Dobey. And then they are playing in the second round. It's like one of these guys is going to make it to the final match
Exactly.
on the first one. Any big takeaways from Night 1, or too early to tell anything? Or
Too early to tell, really. Aspinall's the one I'm really worried about. I think he could very quickly become the Peter Wright of the year. Other takeaway, I guess, is all the games went over 7.5 legs as we predicted. We'll get into it in a minute, but I wouldn't go that strategy this week. The rest of outside of Aspinall and Humphries, every game was 6-4, 6-4, and 6-5, I think. So pretty close as expected. The games are just over so fast. So
yeah,
no, it's kind of hard. You have to pick your spots, and as I mentioned, whoever throws first has such a huge advantage here. So
every week I'm gonna pose this question to you. Is the Luke parlay something that is viable this week?
yes,
Parlaying Littler.
absolutely.
I thought last week was a no, and I agree with you that this week it could be. So let's
Yeah,
see. Yeah, minus 123 on the Littler. You're right.
perfect.
Yeah, yeah. It's the two guys we were worried about coming in there. So, all right, let's start with Cross and Littler here. Any thoughts on spreads? Plus, Cross getting 2.5 on Littler over
Yeah,
under.
I hate the 2.5 spreads for the simple fact of what I mentioned. It's quick. 6-4 could be an easy win for Littler and still doesn't cover the spread. I'm going Littler most 180s. I have not checked the price for it this week yet, but it wasn't that unreasonable if I remember.
It's minus 350, which is so parlayable. I mean,
Yep, I that's probably my favorite piece on the board, quite honestly. I mention it almost non-stop. Littler's the biggest 180 hitter on the tour. Cross is actually one of the least. Obviously he's a top 10. I think he's ranked fourth at the minute or fifth, and he doesn't hit the same volume of 180s. Littler in their head-to-heads they've played 10 times. Just rough guess, how many times do you think Littler's had the most 180s out of that 10 games?
oh, it's got to be probably 9.
Yep, nine. Nine of the 10 games. And the other game, they both had 2. So you can also, at some books, I know FanDuel does it, DraftKings doesn't. You can do money line and most 180s. You could easily do Littler most 180s and to win the game. Outside of that, I quite like Littler's average. It's plus money to the over 102.5. He's just been on fire, man. He isn't barely getting over this either. He's had like 105s, 110s, 113s, and in such quick formats, he just needs to hit those few 180s. If he has 3 or 4 180s, that's basically carrying him to a 100+ average anyway. So yeah, that's where I'm looking for that game. So
Nice, nice. Before we get any further in, I just want to let you guys know we do have a darts pack that is up. The plays that we release on Wager Talk are the official darts plays. That's what goes to our record. That's what we bet with our own money. Those are all the plays that we release every week to clients. So if you want that, grab our darts pack. That's going to be up every week on Wager Talk. What we talk about on this show, it's more of just breaking down, going through all of the different matches. And, if you guys need parlay pieces, pick and choose. But when we tell you guys our record and what we actually bet with our money, those are plays that we release at Wager Talk. So we were 3-2 last week. We'll go over that record again, but I just wanted to make that very clear for everybody. So, because we're not betting 100 things that we talk about, like everything we just talked about, we're not betting. So, all right, let's move to Michael Van Gerwen and Stephen Bunting. Van Gerwen, sleeping giant for this year, man. When he gets dialed in, Corbin.
Yeah, he's not getting the respect that he deserves. Like particularly since that World Championships, he's been on fire. Before that, he was in a slump last year, but he's definitely flicked a switch and has been playing so much better. I think Van Gogh edges this probably a 6-4, 6-5 kind of job, which again, it stops. Like I would ordinarily love to say I love the minus 140 on Van Gogh, but without knowing who throws first. again, it's such a huge difference. It's like if Van Gogh just needs to hold his throw the whole time, I love the minus 140. If he has to break Bunting to win, you'll probably get a better price during the game. That's why I always mention that I think you find out about 10, 15 minutes before they start who throws first. I would wait to find out that information. I always mention it in the Discord and stuff. So yeah, I don't know if you have any other opinions on these games, but I love the over in that game. I think that one screams over. This
I
one and the
agree.
one coming up to me scream over. You're already going to the next play that I have, but Bunting under 98.5 average. Had a 94 average last week, and he's played 7 times since last week because they do these what are called player championships.
I
They're not on
saw that.
yeah, they're not on TV. They're basically, this is going to sound so funny. They're basically just in a room with a dartboard, and like there's a stream somewhere out there. I don't watch it. I'm going to be honest. I stick to the main events. If you see those results, you can literally chuck them out the window pretty much. Like what they do in those little rooms on a random Thursday is completely different to what they will ever do in like a TV main event. Like there's no crowd, there's no walk-ons. They literally just walk up to the board and start throwing. It's very different. I'll mention some of their results just to keep you guys updated. But he's played 7 games since then. Only one of those he went over this 98.5 average, and I think he only just went over with about 100 average. So I really like that. Bunting over under 3.5 180s as well. He had 2 last week, and then he had 4, 5, and 1, but that was in the set format where it was way longer. So to get 4 180 seems like a push. I know it's juice, but you could easily put that like with the Lukes that we've mentioned, the most 180s for
Yeah,
Littler we just mentioned. That's the kind of thing. I'm not saying that's an
there you
official
go.
play, but that's the kind of thing that you can do to make that playable. My one concern with that is we see it every now and then. I hate doing it against Littler, but players' averages and 180s, like they have to score to keep up with these players. I'm wondering if Van Gogh might bring out the best in Bunting and push up his averages and 180s. But even still, 4 180s and a 98.5 average kind of almost feels like it takes it into account. Like he hasn't been doing this. So yeah, that's where I'm looking in that game.
All right, let's move to Aspinall and Price, and he takes on this one.
Oh, this screams over to me. Like this immediately just screams over 8.5, 9.5, whatever it is. I would probably play it. Price, as I mentioned, Price won the one of the Players Championships over the weekend. Again, I don't really care because he also went out in the second round to a complete nobody. So it really doesn't mean anything. Aspinall has. I always forget what injury it has, but he's like stuttering as he's throwing. People call it like dartitis. It's like he struggles to release the dart and he has to regrip. I think it's really going to affect him the longer this season goes on. I think he's going to progressively get worse, but he has so much grit and determination. He just, we saw it last week. He was down, was it 4 or 5 now
Yeah,
to Humphries, and I was very worried about our over 7.5 that we had in a play, and then he just wins two legs back to back and has a little magic. It really doesn't take much to win a couple of legs in this format. So yeah, that game, 2 inconsistent players screams over to me. So
yeah, it's like the yips in golf. Happened to Kevin Na, where he couldn't swing the club. Like he'd come back and then he couldn't swing it, or he'd like swing through it and then
yeah,
he'd stop. So that's kind of the thing. I thought Aspinall would keep it close, and it was a miracle just to get the 2. To be honest, like
yeah,
Humphreys threw him a lifeline. But honestly, that happens so much. This is why we love the overs. Like if in Premier League, I don't believe these guys are out to humiliate the other one. I just
yeah,
don't. I think there's. I'm not saying they're giving away games. I don't think any of these guys want to win 6-0 or six
yeah.
one about it. They're out there to put on a show, and so
Whilst we're here, what are the odds on the alt totals for those 2 games? Not spread the total. Yeah.
well,
So
I,
eight and
I'm
a half.
I'm
Oh,
gonna do this in every. I'm gonna do this every week here because I love the over seven and a
yeah.
half. All of them parlay, and I'm just gonna ask you which is the one that terrifies you the most. We barely got there last week.
-156.
-156. Which is the one that scares you the most?
Oh Jesus, two of them scare me. The Humphries Dobey probably scares me the most because I think Humphries could wax him. Also the Littler, I think Littler could easily. I wouldn't be surprised. This is gonna sound bold, but I wouldn't be surprised if he won 6-0, 6 or 6-1 this week. So
Really? Think so,
yeah,
huh?
I think he crushes him, especially losing in the first round last week. I think he'll be firing on all cylinders. If anything, I'd do the 8.5 in Van Gogh and Bunting, 8.5 Aspinall Price, and put that together and see what that gets you. So
Last match, Humphries and Dobey. Dobey, we had Dobey to go under his average. That guy had more 2-dart checkouts that didn't count towards his average than any player I have ever seen. Like, so if you guys don't, Corbin, I'll let you explain why the checkouts are so important to the averages and how it could easily just tank your average or send it through the roof.
yeah, I mean, quite simply, your average takes into account your average score. So
But
if
it's
you're
all
going for
3 darts. It's got to be
yeah,
3 darts.
if you're going for double 10 and let's say you miss it, that's one dart that counts as zero. Like that's already like just do the maths. You hit a 180 and you hit a zero, it averages out at 90. Right slap bang in the middle. You miss you let's say you hit the 10 and then hit double five, like that's like 20 on your
It's a
3 dart
3 dart
average. It
average
kills it. It kills it so quickly. So
But if you check out on 1 or 2 darts, that does not count toward your average because it's not 3 darts. So
yeah.
what Dobie was doing is he'd get down to like 30 and then he'd like close it out in 2 darts so you don't get that low like 30 total with all 3 darts. So that was it's driving me nuts. I'll be honest, Corbin, I would go right back to it with Dobie. I think that's a rinse and repeat play. What do you think?
I would dodge it this week just because I think Humphries is going to wax him again. I said it in the Discord last week, just before the final. I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if Humphries like dominates this and wins easily. What was it? Was it 6-1 or 6-2? I forgot what it was. It was an easy win for Humphries. This week I'd go right back to it. Humphries -1.5. Especially if he has the throw. I would always make sure you see that. Averages for Humphries last week 105, 99, and he had a 95 average versus Dobey in the final and smashed him. He won the whole night last week. So yeah, I would probably go back to Humphries -1.5. So
I'm planting my flag down on Dobie. I was so pissed off watching Dobie not get those low averages. It was wild. So, all right. Anything else that you got of note for night 2?
not really. I would don't overreact to night one is probably the first thing. Like you could easily have a player that loses in the first round one week and then wins the next night.
True.
I see
Yeah.
people like betting on people to win the night. Again, I wouldn't do it. I would avoid that. It's just not worth the stress. And then as I mentioned, it's whoever throws first. You really need to wait for who throws first in some of these matchups. And that's probably
Nice.
it.
Nice. Yeah, don't go crazy on the darts. I mean, we're happy to scrape a couple units off
Yeah.
of darts, like in this first
Especially
round.
in this format as well. The games are over so fast, some of them. So yeah, sets formats we can dial in some more profits, but got to be measured for these kind of low scoring, low kind of time games. So
What do we have up? We do have our 5% UFC play, and we have our Darts Premier League night 2. Yeah, we're 3-2 for very small profit night 1, but we'll take profit any day of the week.
amen.
Yeah, absolutely. 36-18 plus 26 units last 2 months in darts. So grab that. Grab the 5% UFC play, and if you're interested in long-term packages, which you should be, we're number 1 in the last 2 years, and I went and looked. We're up 146 units in the last 365 days, all sports. So,
Beautiful.
yeah, we specialize in a lot of different sports. You're going to be bringing in units from soccer, from tennis, from darts, from NHL, from NBA, from golf. There's just a lot of sports that we do, and it's a great time of year now that football's over.
I'd argue it's our best time of the year now that football's over. All these other sports are like tennis is specifically ramping up, golf as well. F1's obviously going to be back soon. So I feel like this is right in our wheelhouse this kind of time of year. So
Agreed. I haven't done a great job on these videos of doing our recap, so I want to make sure I get back to doing that. So January 1st, all sports, we're up plus 10.84 units. This was after a disaster first couple weeks of January. Like, man, those
yeah,
first couple weeks were just awful. So the rebound that we've had is absolutely fantastic. This week, 5-2 plus 9.5 units. That is all Corbin. I think I had one play out of those, but Corbin with a nice sweep in
I'm sure it
soccer
was a
and
winner.
tennis. It was. It was a nice winner. So, and then pretty modest 2025 darts record. We haven't had too many plays. 8-6
Yeah,
for plus 5.6 units, 23.8%. We just keep grinding away these profits in these different sports. So, all right, that's going to do it for us. If you guys could hit the like button and leave us a comment down below, let us know if you like any plays, and appreciate all the support for us doing the darts content. We'll continue to do this. We know it's a really niche sport, but we love the enthusiasm. We know a lot of people that have jumped on board the darts train. So appreciate all you guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see everyone later. Good luck on all your plays.
good luck.